Level 17, head wear. Do your digital recordings suffer from hard disk wear? No, of course they don't. Unless your disk fails, but that won't bother you because you have a backup. You do have a backup. But as the analog tape scrapes past the erase, record and playback heads, it causes wear. You'll notice that as time goes by, the quality of your recordings deteriorate. Okay, let's get a perspective. You'll hardly notice the difference right up to the point where the wear is at its specified allowable maximum. You can see this and measure it as a flat spot on the head, which if your wrap alignment is correct, should be centered on the gap. At this point, you can have the head relapped, which basically grinds it down to the proper curvature. I'm not sure how many times a head can be relapped, but I suspect it's just once. I've never had a head relapped more than once, so that's the limit of my experience. I said that you'll hardly notice the difference as the head wears. Well, you might on a multitrack head, where the edge tracks may become more drop-outy. There's that word I invented again. A relap is the cure. Level 18, scrape flutter. I mentioned the tape scraping past the heads. It also scrapes past the tape guides. On a high-end machine, as many of the guides as possible will have rollers so that they don't scrape. So what's wrong with scraping? Well, it makes the tape flutter. And we have scrape flutter. It's microscopic and you won't see it. You will certainly hear it subliminally. What does it do? Well, it isn't the same as wow and flutter, which I probably should have covered first. But hey, I'm covering it later because I can. Scrape flutter creates sidebands. So what are sidebands? Well, again, this can be a complex subject if you want it to be, and the internet can help. But basically, if you record a single sine wave, you'll get a mass of additional frequencies either side of the sine wave frequency. They are not harmonically related to the original frequency, and there are whole clouds of them. This, I would say, and I'm going to be controversial here, is the sound of analog tape. If anyone likes the tape sound, this is what they like. It isn't the distortion. There are plenty of ways to get distortion. But sidebands, well, you need tape. And if you think that tape emulation plugins can give you those lovely sidebands that you desire, then think again. They don't. Or maybe there's one, or maybe a couple of plugins that I don't know about that emulate sidebands. Let me know in the comments and I'll investigate further. Level 19, sticky shed. So, you recorded the best band in the world back in the 1980s. You used a premium brand of tape on one of the best tape recorders available, and the album sold millions. Now, in the 21st century, you want to remaster that recording for a 24-bit lossless streaming release, as naturally you would. So you take the tape out from the archive, noting that it's been vacuum sealed and stored at a constant temperature. You've had a tape machine lovingly restored, serviced, and tended to. This is going to be a great musical and audio experience. So, you press play to audition the tape. You hear a few bars of music, then the music slows, then it stops. You see that play is still engaged, and you don't want to risk stretching the tape, so you press stop. You loosen the tape from the heads and guides and notice that a brown substance has come off on them. A sticky brown substance. Your tape has sticky shed syndrome. It isn't the same as brown stain, by the way. It's just another way that tape has got it in for you. What's happening here is that the binder that holds the magnetic particles to the base film has degraded and is leaching out. And that's bad. Fortunately, there's a cure, and that is to bake the tape in an oven. If this is a master recording of the best band in the world, then you'll take the tape to a tape baking specialist. And yes, that's a thing. If it's your own tape, of sentimental rather than commercial value, then you will look up how to do it yourself. I've done it and it worked. I wish you the same good luck. Level 20, wow and flutter. Getting close to the end now. Back in the olden days, the reason we used analog tape is because there was no alternative. Anyone who uses it now has got to be crazy, or they want the sound texture that only genuine analog tape, not plugins, can provide. Record digitally, bounce to tape, bounce back. In and out as quickly as possible. That's my advice. Wow and flutter are both variations in speed and hence pitch. Wow is slower, flutter is faster, and not to be confused with scrape flutter. With a professional machine, wow and flutter, which are generally measured together, should be at a level that's imperceptible. With a semi-pro machine, such as the Fostex E16 1980s workhorse I mentioned earlier, no, not such as, exactly the Fostex E16, you'll hear the flutter. More of a flutter than a wow. It shows up on piano and on sustained notes or chords on an electroacoustic guitar. You may hear it on other instruments, but those are the worst in my experience. Of course, straight from the factory, the wow and flutter specification will be good, but after a few knocks and bumps, the tachometer that measures the speed of the motor will be out of alignment, and it's damned difficult to get it back again. And I'm not talking about just the one, actually 2 machines I used to own myself. I've heard several, all with the same problem. Maybe I had a run of bad luck, but that's the nature of analog tape. It's problems, problems and more problems, all the way down the line, even with machines that are fully pro. Level 21. I've left this until last, and out of alphabetical order, because although it wouldn't be an issue in practice now, it is at the heart of the whole of analog recording. Copying. We take it for granted now that we can copy a recording, copy the copy of the copy, as many times as we like up to infinity, and the audio will sound exactly the same. That's because we are copying ones and zeros, and ones and zeros don't degrade. Apart from the occasional intergalactic cosmic ray perhaps, but does one ever put an extra 0 on your bank balance? No, because in the digital world we have error detection and correction. But when you record onto analog tape, the original recording doesn't sound quite like the signal that came out of the mixing console, but that's your master tape, the best you'll get. And you'll make a safety copy, which won't sound quite like the master. Then the vinyl mastering engineer will make a further copy with level adjustments, EQ, rebalance, etc. Then further copies of this copy will be made to send to other disc manufacturing facilities around the world. The original recording may be copied many times for one reason or another, and each copy is a copy of a copy, and each time the audio quality degrades. And that's just the way things were in the analog era. I could sum up, but I probably shouldn't make you, as a YouTube viewer, suffer anymore. Back in the analog era, we all suffered enough. I'm David Mellor, Course Director of Audio Masterclass. Thank you for listening.